My daughter said, "I've decided to sell your house. You have 3 days to pack your things." I smiled. She didn't know that I had sold her own house a month ago. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I used to think I knew my daughter. For 63 years, I believed family meant loyalty, protection, unconditional love. My name is Margaret Chen, and I raised Jessica alone after her father died when she was only 7. I worked 2 jobs, secretary by day, seamstress by night, to give her everything: piano lessons, college education, a wedding that cost more than my car. I never remarried. She was my whole world. My little house in Sacramento had been mine for 32 years. Nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch with a garden where I grew tomatoes and roses. The neighborhood had changed over the decades, property values climbing steadily. Real estate agents left cards in my mailbox weekly. I always threw them away. This was my home, the place where I'd raised Jessica, where every corner held a memory. The first strange moment came 3 months ago. Jessica visited on a Sunday afternoon, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was her sudden interest in my finances. "Mom, are you managing okay? You're 75 now. Have you thought about simplifying your life?" She walked through my house with an appraising eye, touching the furniture as if calculating its worth. Her husband, Derek, stayed in the car, scrolling through his phone. He rarely came inside anymore. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I told her. "I have my pension, my savings. This house is paid off. But the maintenance, Mom, the property taxes. Wouldn't a nice assisted living facility be easier?" She smiled, but her eyes were cold, calculating. My daughter had changed since marrying Derek 5 years ago. The warm, affectionate girl I raised had been replaced by someone harder, more ambitious. They lived in a McMansion in Roseville, drove matching BMWs, took expensive vacations to Europe. But I'd heard whispers from Jessica's old friends: credit card debt, business ventures that failed, investments gone wrong. I brushed off my concerns. She was my daughter. Surely I was imagining things. The second warning came when I found Derek in my garage one Saturday morning. I'd gone to the farmer's market and returned early. He was photographing my belongings, my late husband's tools, my vintage sewing machine, boxes of Christmas decorations. "What are you doing?" I asked. He jumped, nearly dropping his phone. "Oh, Margaret, Jessica asked me to, help catalog things, for insurance purposes, in case of fire or theft." It was a smooth lie, delivered with a practiced smile. But his eyes couldn't meet mine. I said nothing. I simply watched him leave, my heart growing heavy with suspicion. Then came last Tuesday, the day everything shattered. Jessica arrived unannounced at 10 a.m., no phone call, no warning. She walked into my kitchen where I was having coffee and reading the newspaper. She didn't sit down. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She simply stood there, her designer purse hanging from her shoulder, her expression as cold as January frost. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." I set down my coffee cup. "What is it, honey?" "I've made a decision. I'm selling this house. It's too much for you to handle at your age. The market is strong right now, and we can get a good price." She pulled out her phone, showing me listings for senior apartments. "These places are really nice. They have activities, meal plans, everything you'd need." My hands started to tremble. "Jessica, this is my house. You can't just—" "Actually, Mom, I can." Her voice was sharp now, impatient. "You added me to the deed 5 years ago, remember? When you had that health scare and wanted to make sure I could help manage things if something happened. That makes me a co-owner. I've already consulted with a real estate attorney. The house will sell, and you'll move into a facility. I've already picked one out." She slid a brochure across my kitchen table. Golden Sunset Senior Living. I'd seen the place. A grim brick building on the edge of town where old people went to wait for death. "You have 3 days to pack your things," she said. "The realtor is coming Friday to take photos." Then she turned and walked out, leaving me sitting there, my coffee growing cold, my heart breaking into pieces. But as the door closed behind her, something strange happened. Instead of crying, I smiled. Because Jessica didn't know something. She didn't know that 4 weeks ago I had sold her house, the McMansion in Roseville that she and Derek loved so much. After Jessica left, I sat at my kitchen table for an hour, not moving, barely breathing. The morning sun streamed through the window, illuminating dust particles floating in the air. Everything looked the same. My grandmother's china cabinet, the wall calendar with next week's doctor's appointment circled in red, the African violet blooming on the windowsill. But nothing would ever be the same again. How had I raised someone capable of this? I forced myself to think clearly, to count what I'd lost, what I stood to lose. My home, first and foremost, the sanctuary I'd built over 3 decades, but more than that, my independence, my dignity, my freedom. Jessica wanted to warehouse me in Golden Sunset, while she cashed out my only real asset. I'd visited a friend there once. The residents shuffled through hallways that smelled of disinfectant and despair, their days structured around meal times and mandatory activities. Many had simply given up, waiting for the end. Was that what my daughter envisioned for me? Or did she simply not care as long as she got the money? My hands shook as I made myself a fresh cup of coffee. Fear coursed through me like ice water. I was 75 years old. What could I possibly do against my daughter and her husband? They had youth, money, lawyers. I had arthritis and a fixed income. But then I remembered something my mother used to say. "Margaret, being underestimated is a woman's secret weapon." I pulled out my laptop. Yes, I had one. I wasn't the technological dinosaur Jessica assumed I was, and began searching. I needed to understand my legal position. The deed situation was complicated. 5 years ago, after a minor heart episode, my doctor had suggested I get my affairs in order. Jessica had been so concerned, so loving. "Mom, let me help you. Just add my name to the deed so if anything happens, there won't be legal complications." I'd trusted her completely. I'd signed the papers. According to what I read now, being a co-owner meant Jessica did have certain rights. But she couldn't simply evict me. This was still my primary residence. She couldn't force a sale without my consent or a court order. Relief flooded through me. I had time, not much, but some. Then I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out a folder I'd been keeping for the past 2 months. Inside were documents that would change everything. It had started 12 weeks ago. I'd been having lunch with my friend Dorothy, who'd worked in real estate for 40 years before retiring. We were discussing our children, as old women do, and I'd mentioned my concerns about Jessica's spending, the tension in her marriage, Derek's failed business ventures. "Margaret," Dorothy had said quietly, "I shouldn't tell you this, but I heard through the grapevine that Jessica and Derek are in serious financial trouble. They're months behind on their mortgage. The bank is starting foreclosure proceedings." My blood had run cold. "Are you certain?" "My nephew works at their bank. He's not supposed to discuss clients, but he's worried about them. He knows Jessica is my friend's daughter." Dorothy had squeezed my hand. "I think they might come to you for money. Be careful." That night, I'd lain awake thinking. Jessica hadn't asked me for help. She hadn't confided in me about any problems. Instead, she'd been asking questions about my house, my finances, my plans. And Derek had been photographing my belongings. They weren't planning to ask. They were planning to take. The next morning, I'd called Dorothy. "Tell me about that property your nephew mentioned, the one in Roseville. She'd given me the address, Jessica's address. How much do they owe? About $400,000. The house is worth maybe $650,000 in current market. I'd thought carefully about what I did next. It had taken me 2 weeks to arrange, working through Dorothy's connections, using a trust to hide my identity. But I'd done it. I'd purchased Jessica's mortgage from the bank at a discount, $380,000, which represented nearly all my savings and my late husband's life insurance policy. The bank had been eager to unload a non-performing loan. Technically, I now owned Jessica's debt. She didn't know it yet. The servicing company had continued sending her notices, but the actual ownership had transferred to a trust, one that bore no obvious connection to me. I pulled out my phone and called Dorothy. "It's time," I said. "I need your help with the next phase." "Are you sure, Margaret? This is going to get ugly." I thought about Jessica's cold eyes, her casual cruelty, her willingness to throw me into a nursing home to solve her financial problems. "I'm sure," I said. Thursday morning, I dressed carefully. Navy blue pantsuit, pearl earrings my mother had given me, sensible heels. I looked like someone to be taken seriously, not a confused elderly woman ready to be shuffled off to golden sunset. I had an appointment at Jenkins & Associates, the most respected law firm in Sacramento. Dorothy had recommended Thomas Jenkins personally. "He's expensive," she'd warned, "but he's brilliant, and he doesn't lose." The law office occupied the top floor of a downtown building with a view of the Capitol. Thomas Jenkins was younger than I expected, maybe 50, with gray temples and sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. He listened as I explained the situation. The deed, Jessica's ultimatum, my fear of forced displacement. "Mrs. Chen, your daughter cannot legally evict you from your primary residence without a court order, which would take months and require her to prove you're incapable of maintaining the property. Has she suggested you're mentally incompetent?" "Not directly, but she treats me like I'm senile." He made notes. "We'll need to establish your competency clearly. I'll arrange for a medical evaluation. Beyond that, even as a co-owner, she cannot sell without your signature on the deed transfer. If she's threatened to do so, that's coercion, possibly elder abuse." "I want to remove her from my deed," I said. He looked up. "That's more complicated. She'd have to agree to sign a quit-claim deed, or you'd need to buy out her interest. Given that you're co-owners, a court would likely determine her share is worth half the current property value. The house is worth about $580,000, so you'd need to pay her approximately $290,000? He paused. "Do you have those resources?" I'd thought about this carefully. "I have $80,000 left in savings. I could take a reverse mortgage on my half of the property." Jenkins nodded slowly. "It's possible. But Mrs. Chen, may I ask, why not simply refuse to move? You have the legal right to remain. Let her try to force the issue through the courts. You'll win." "Because I don't want to spend the next year fighting my own daughter in court. I want her out of my life cleanly." I met his eyes. "And I have leverage." I explained about the mortgage, the trust, the $400,000 debt that Jessica and Derek didn't know I controlled. Thomas Jenkins actually smiled. "Mrs. Chen, you're full of surprises. That changes everything. You could threaten foreclosure, force them to negotiate. They'd be desperate to keep their house. I want to do this correctly," I said. "Legally, ethically. I don't want to become like them." "Understood. Here's what I propose." We worked out a strategy. First, establish my competency through medical evaluation. Second, have Jenkins send Jessica a formal letter explaining that any attempt to sell the property without my consent would be illegal. Third, offer her a choice. Sign away her interest in my house in exchange for me forgiving a portion of her mortgage debt. "It's elegant," Jenkins said. "She gets debt relief. You get your house back. Everyone walks away. And if she refuses?" Then we proceed with foreclosure on her property while simultaneously filing an elder abuse complaint with the state. Either way, you win. But this way is cleaner. I paid his retainer, $5,000 that made my bank account wince, and left his office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: hope. But when I arrived home, I found Jessica's car in my driveway, and Derek's truck parked behind it. My heart hammered as I walked to my front door. They were inside, in my living room. Jessica had apparently kept a key I didn't know about. They weren't alone. A woman in a business suit stood beside them, holding a camera. The realtor. "Mom, there you are." Jessica's voice was bright, false. "This is Sharon Klein. She's here to assess the property. I told you the realtor was coming." "On Friday," I said quietly. "You told me Friday." "Did I? I must have confused the dates." She smiled. "Anyway, Sharon needs to take some photos, measure the rooms. It won't take long." The realtor looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Chen, I understood this was a consensual sale. Is that correct?" I looked at my daughter, at Derek, who stood with his arms crossed, radiating entitled arrogance, at this stranger in my home, preparing to catalog my life for sale. "No," I said clearly. "It is not consensual. This is my house. I am not selling. I do not consent to photographs or measurements. I'm asking all of you to leave immediately." Jessica's smile vanished. "Mom, don't be difficult. We've been over this. Get out." My voice surprised me, loud, commanding, brooking no argument. "This is my home. I am the primary resident. You are trespassing. Leave now, or I will call the police." The realtor grabbed her camera bag. "I'm sorry, I don't involve myself in family disputes." She was out the door in seconds. Derek stepped toward me. "Listen, you old—" "Derek." Jessica's hand on his arm stopped him, but her eyes on me were cold with fury. "Fine, Mom. Have it your way. But you're making a huge mistake. This isn't over." They left, but I knew she was right. This was just beginning. The medical evaluation happened Monday morning. Dr. Patricia Morrison had been my physician for 20 years. She conducted a thorough cognitive assessment, memory tests, problem-solving exercises, discussions about current events. She checked my blood pressure, reviewed my medications, asked about my daily activities. "Margaret, you're sharper than most people half your age," she said, signing the competency letter. "Your daughter should be grateful to have a mother in such good health." "My daughter," I said bitterly, "wants me declared incompetent so she can steal my house." Dr. Morrison's expression hardened. "That letter will be very clear. You are completely capable of managing your own affairs." By Tuesday afternoon, Thomas Jenkins had sent the formal legal notice to Jessica via certified mail. I imagined her opening it, reading the carefully worded explanation that any attempt to sell my property without consent would constitute elder abuse and would be reported to Adult Protective Services, that I was under no obligation to vacate my home, that her co-ownership gave her no right to evict me. I didn't have to imagine her response. She called at 6 p.m., her voice shaking with rage. "How dare you involve lawyers? After everything I've done for you." "Everything you've done?" I kept my voice steady. "Like trying to force me into a nursing home? Like planning to sell my house without my permission?" "That house is half mine. You put me on the deed." "For emergencies, Jessica. So you could help me if I became incapacitated. Not so you could throw me out when you needed money." Silence. Then, "What did you say?" "I know about the foreclosure, about the debt, about why you really want my house sold." I heard her breathing on the other end. "Who told you that?" "Dorothy, that meddling old—" "It doesn't matter who told me. What matters is that I won't be used to solve your financial problems." "Fine." Her voice turned icy. "If you won't help me, if you're going to hire lawyers and fight me, Then I hope you enjoy living alone in that house. Because you'll never see your grandchildren again. Connor and Lily, consider them gone from your life. The threat hit like a physical blow. Connor was 8, Lily was 5. I'd been present at both their births, babysat them weekly when they were toddlers, attended every birthday party and school play. They called me Nana and climbed into my lap for stories. You would keep them from me to get money? I would keep them from a toxic influence. You're clearly becoming paranoid in your old age, making wild accusations about your own daughter. That's not healthy for children to witness. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my quiet kitchen, tears streaming down my face. This was the cost of fighting back. But what choice did I have? Surrender and lose everything? Or stand my ground and lose my grandchildren? Wednesday brought Derek. He arrived at my door at 8 a.m. with coffee and pastries from my favorite bakery. Margaret, can we talk, please? Against my better judgment, I let him in. We sat at my kitchen table. He looked tired, older than his 42 years. Look, I know things got heated. Jessica's under a lot of stress. We both are. He ran his hand through his hair. The business went under. My partner embezzled from our accounts. We're drowning in debt. We were stupid, okay? We lived beyond our means, and now we're paying for it. So you decided to take my house? We didn't have a choice. The bank was going to foreclose. We'd lose everything. We thought, you're 75, Mom. You don't need all this space. We could sell, split the money. Everyone would benefit. You'd have enough for a nice apartment, and we'd save our house. By throwing me into Golden Sunset, that prison disguised as a care facility? It's not a prison, it's, Derek, get out. Margaret, please, I'm begging you. We'll lose our house. Our kids will have to change schools. Jessica's falling apart. Can't you help your own daughter? Can't my daughter help herself? Through hard work and sacrifice like I did? Like every parent does? I stood up. I'm not bailing you out, and I'm not giving up my home. You and Jessica created this mess. You fix it. His expression shifted from pleading to something darker. You're going to regret this, Margaret. You're making enemies of the only family you have. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. Life is unpredictable at your age. Accidents happen. Falls, fires, health emergencies. Who's going to help you when you've alienated everyone who cares about you? My blood ran cold, but I kept my voice steady. Get out of my house. Now. He left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. For the next 3 days, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. I checked the locks obsessively, left lights on at night, even asked my neighbor George to keep an eye on my property. But nothing happened. No more visits, no more calls. An eerie silence settled over my life. On Saturday, Dorothy came over for tea. How are you holding up? Honestly, I'm exhausted, scared, but determined. Good, she said, because now comes the hard part. Are you ready to use your real leverage? I thought about Derek's threats, Jessica's cruelty, the grandchildren I might never see again. Yes, I said, I'm ready. Sunday afternoon, I was gardening, something I did to keep my hands busy and my mind calm, when a Mercedes I didn't recognize pulled into my driveway. A woman emerged, expensively dressed, carrying a designer handbag that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Mrs. Chen, I'm Vanessa Park. I'm a friend of Jessica's. I'd heard of Vanessa Park. She and her husband owned a chain of luxury car dealerships. They'd been at Jessica's wedding, though I'd barely spoken to them. What can I do for you, Mrs. Park? Please call me Vanessa. I heard about the situation between you and Jessica. I wanted to speak with you, mother to mother. Against my instincts, I invited her inside. She sat in my living room, perfectly poised, and got straight to the point. Jessica is my friend. I've watched her struggle these past months. The stress is destroying her marriage, affecting her children. I understand you're upset about the misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She tried to force me out of my home. She made a mistaken approach, certainly, but her heart was in the right place. She's worried about you, living alone at your age. Vanessa smiled warmly. I lost my own mother 2 years ago. Dementia. It started with small things. Forgotten appointments, bills left unpaid. She insisted she was fine, but she wasn't. We had to make hard decisions for her safety. I don't have dementia. Of course not. I'm not suggesting that. But Jessica is concerned. And honestly, Margaret, this legal battle you're waging, it's going to cost you thousands in attorney fees. Wouldn't it be wiser to compromise? Sell the house, move somewhere with support services. You'd still have plenty of money left over. And Jessica would have her share to pay off her debts. Vanessa's smile never wavered. Everyone would benefit. That's what good families do. They help each other. My husband and I would be happy to help you find a lovely retirement community. We have connections. Thank you for your concern, but I'm not interested. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to something more intimate. Margaret, I'm going to be honest with you. Jessica and Derek are in serious trouble. If they lose their house, it will devastate those children. Connor and Lily would have to leave their school, their friends, everything they know. Is your pride really worth traumatizing your grandchildren? There it was, the guilt weapon, the emotional manipulation disguised as concern. I met her eyes steadily. Mrs. Park, did Jessica send you here? She doesn't know I came. I took this upon myself because I care about both of you. That's a lie. My voice remained calm, almost conversational. Jessica absolutely sent you. This is another attempt to pressure me, dressed up as friendship and concern. It won't work. Vanessa's pleasant expression cracked slightly. You're being stubborn and foolish. Jessica is trying to help you. By stealing my house, by threatening to keep my grandchildren from me. That's help? She's your daughter. She deserves your support. And I'm her mother. Where's her support for me? I stood up. Thank you for visiting, Mrs. Park. Please see yourself out. She left, but not before delivering one final shot. You'll regret alienating people who could be your allies, Margaret. Old age is lonely enough without making it worse. After she'd gone, I called Thomas Jenkins and told him about the visit. He made notes, his voice tight with anger. That's witness tampering, essentially. They're trying to intimidate you through proxies. Document everything, Margaret. Every visit, every call, every threat. That evening, Dorothy arrived with her sister Helen and 2 other women from our church group, Rita and Joan. They brought casseroles, wine, and something more valuable. Solidarity. We're here to tell you you're not alone, Dorothy said firmly. Rita went through something similar with her son. Joan's nephew tried to get power of attorney when she had a stroke. We've all dealt with family members who thought they could take advantage. Rita poured wine into juice glasses. I didn't own proper wine glasses. My son wanted me to sign over my pension. Said he'd invest it for me. I found out later he'd gambled away his own savings. What did you do? I asked. Cut him off completely. It hurt like hell, but he needed to learn he couldn't manipulate me. Took him 2 years, but he finally apologized. Really apologized. We have a relationship now, but it's on my terms. Joan squeezed my hand. Margaret, you're doing the right thing. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary. If Jessica truly loved you, she'd respect your decisions, not try to force you into submission. But what about Connor and Lily? What if she really does keep them from me? Helen, a retired family court mediator, spoke up. California has grandparent rights laws. If she tries to deny you access to your grandchildren out of spite, you can petition the court for visitation. Especially given the circumstances, her financial motives are clear. No judge would support parental alienation used as leverage in a property dispute. You have more power than you think, Dorothy added. You're not helpless. You're not alone. and you're certainly not wrong. We talked late into the evening. These women who'd become my support system. They shared their stories of family betrayal and recovery, their strategies for staying strong in the face of manipulation. When they finally left, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Genuine calm. I wasn't fighting alone anymore, and I had more cards to play than Jessica realized. Monday morning, I would make my next move. But for now, I would rest, gathering strength for the battles ahead. Outside my window, my roses bloomed in the late autumn sun. I'd planted them 30 years ago, had nurtured them through droughts and freezes. They'd survived. So would I. They came on Tuesday evening, just as I was finishing dinner. Both of them this time, Jessica and Derek, carrying flowers and a box from the expensive Italian bakery downtown. Jessica's eyes were red, as if she'd been crying. Derek looked somber, penitent. "Mom, please, can we come in? We want to talk. Really talk this time." Every instinct screamed warning, but I'd been raised to believe in reconciliation, in giving people chances, and she was still my daughter. I opened the door. They sat on my couch. The same couch where Jessica had once done homework, where I'd read her bedtime stories, where she'd fallen asleep during movies. The weight of those memories pressed against my chest. "Mom, I'm so sorry." Jessica's voice broke convincingly. "I've been horrible to you. The stress of everything, the money problems, the fear of losing our house, it made me crazy. I wasn't thinking about you, only about our problems. That was wrong." Derek nodded earnestly. "We should never have approached it the way we did. You're right. You have every right to stay in your home. We were desperate, and we took that out on you unfairly." I said nothing, waiting. My lawyer had coached me. "Listen, don't commit, document everything." "We talked to a financial counselor," Jessica continued. "We're going to file for bankruptcy. It'll hurt our credit, but it's the right thing to do. Start fresh. We can't keep asking you to solve our problems." "That's very mature of you," I said carefully. "But Mom..." Jessica reached for my hand. I let her take it, feeling the familiar warmth of her fingers. "I'm still worried about you. You're all alone in this big house. What if something happened? What if you fell or had another heart episode? I couldn't live with myself if you got hurt because I wasn't here to help." "I'm perfectly healthy," Dr. Morrison confirmed it. I know. But please, just consider selling anyway. Not for our sake, for yours. You'd have so much money. You could travel, live somewhere with less responsibility, enjoy your retirement without worrying about maintenance and property taxes. There it was. The same request wrapped in prettier paper. "And I suppose you'd still expect your share of the sale?" Jessica's expression flickered, just for a moment, before recovering. "Well, legally, I'm entitled to it, but we could work out something fair, something that benefits everyone." Derek leaned forward. "We're not asking you to bail us out, Margaret. We're asking you to make a smart decision for yourself that happens to also help us. That's what families do. They find solutions that work for everyone." "I see." I withdrew my hand from Jessica's. "And if I refuse?" The temperature in the room dropped. Jessica's sympathetic expression began to crack at the edges. "Mom, why are you being so stubborn about this? We're trying to make peace here. Are you? Because it sounds like you're still trying to get me to sell my house, just with better packaging." "We're trying to help you see reason." Jessica's voice rose. "You're 75 years old. You can't maintain this property forever." "I'm maintaining it perfectly well right now." Derek stood up, his conciliatory mask slipping entirely. "You know what, Margaret? We came here to be nice, to give you a chance to do the right thing. But you're too proud, too selfish, to see that we're offering you a way out of this mess with your dignity intact." "My dignity?" I stood to face him. "You mean the dignity of being forced from my home to pay your debts?" We're not forcing you to do anything." Jessica was on her feet now, too, all pretense of tears gone. "But if you're going to be unreasonable, if you're going to weaponize lawyers against your own family, then fine. You want to live alone? You'll die alone. You think those church ladies give a damn about you? They're just there for the gossip. Get out." "We own half this house," Derek shouted. "We have rights. You can't just—" I said, "Get out." My voice was stronger than I expected. "And Jessica? You don't own half this house. The deed says joint tenancy with right of survivorship, meaning you only get ownership if I die. As long as I'm alive, this is my home. My lawyer made that very clear." Jessica's face went white, then red with fury. "You vindictive old bitch! We were trying to help you, and you help me by stealing from me? Help me by threatening to take my grandchildren away? That's not help, Jessica. That's abuse." "Abuse?" She laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "You have no idea what abuse looks like. Try raising a child alone on poverty wages. Try sacrificing everything for an ungrateful daughter who won't lift a finger when you need her." The words hung in the air between us, revealing everything. This was how she really saw me. Not as a mother who'd given everything, but as a resource she was entitled to extract value from. "I sacrificed everything for you," I said quietly, "and you learned nothing from it except that other people should sacrifice for you too." Derek grabbed Jessica's arm. "Come on, we're wasting our time here. Let the old woman rot in her precious house." They stormed out, Derek slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. Through the window, I watched them sit in their car for several minutes, arguing. Jessica was crying. Real tears this time. Tears of rage and frustration. Then they drove away. Tires squealing. I sat down, my legs shaking, my heart pounded. I'd stood up to them, but at what cost? The look in Jessica's eyes had been pure hatred. My own daughter hated me for not letting her rob me. I called Thomas Jenkins even though it was 8 p.m. They came to my house, tried to manipulate me into selling, then became hostile when I refused. "I want to accelerate our timeline." "Are you sure, Margaret? Once we take the next step, there's no going back." I thought about Derek's threats, Jessica's mask slipping to reveal the cold calculation beneath, the way they'd tried to use my love for them as a weapon against me. I'm sure. Send them the offer. It's time they learned they can't bully their way through life. After I hung up, I sat in my quiet house, listening to the clock tick. Fear coursed through me. Fear of what came next. Fear of permanent estrangement from my daughter and grandchildren. Fear that I was making a terrible mistake, but beneath the fear lay something harder, colder, determination. I would not be a victim. Not in my own home. Not by my own child. I'd planted my feet. Now I would see this through to the end, whatever that looked like. Thomas Jenkins's letter arrived at Jessica and Derek's house via courier on Wednesday morning. I know because Dorothy's nephew, the same one who'd tipped her off about the foreclosure, called me at 11 a.m. "Mrs. Chen, all hell just broke loose at the bank. Your daughter and her husband came in screaming about the mortgage notice. They just found out the loan was sold." My hands were steady as I held the phone. Thank you for letting me know. The letter Jenkins had sent was simple, clinical in its precision. It informed Jessica and Derek that their mortgage had been purchased by Chen Family Trust. It offered them two options. First, sign a quit-claim deed removing Jessica from my property title. In exchange, $150,000 of their mortgage debt would be forgiven, and they'd be given a modified payment plan for the remaining $250,000, reasonable payments they could actually afford. Second, refuse the offer. The trust would proceed with foreclosure within 30 days. They had 72 hours to decide. They arrived at my house at 2 p.m. No flowers this time, no pretense of reconciliation. Jessica's face was splotchy with rage and crying. Derek looked like he wanted to put his fist through a wall. I'd prepared for this moment. I'd asked Dorothy, Rita, and Helen to be present as witnesses. They sat quietly in my dining room, visible through the archway. I'd also set up my laptop to record audio. Perfectly legal in California as long as one party consents. And I was that party. "You bought our mortgage?" Jessica's scream echoed through my house. "What kind of sick, twisted? How is that even legal?" "It's perfectly legal," I said calmly. "The bank was eager to offload a non-performing loan. I purchased it at a discount through a trust." "You're trying to steal our house." "No, Jessica, you tried to steal mine. I'm offering you a way out." Derek's face was purple with rage. "You manipulative. We're your family. You're supposed to help us, not destroy us." "I am helping you. I'm offering to forgive $150,000 of debt. That's more than I ever asked you to give me." "In exchange for my inheritance," Jessica shouted. "You're blackmailing me." "Your inheritance?" I stood up, feeling my own anger rise. "Your inheritance is whatever I choose to leave you when I die. You're not entitled to my house while I'm still alive. You never were. I'm your daughter, and you tried to throw me into a nursing home to pay your debts." My voice cracked like a whip. "You threatened to take my grandchildren away. You sent friends to pressure me. You and Derek came to my home, pretended to make peace, then showed your true colors the moment I didn't give you what you wanted. We were desperate. So was I." I was shaking now, decades of suppressed anger finally breaking free. "I was desperate when your father died and left us with nothing. I was desperate when I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. I was desperate when I went without new clothes for 5 years so you could have piano lessons. I never once asked you to solve my problems by sacrificing yourself. But the first time you have trouble, you decide to sacrifice me." Jessica's mouth opened and closed. That's different." "How? How is it different?" "Because I'm your child. You're supposed to take care of me. You're 43 years old, Jessica. When does my job end? When do you become responsible for your own life, your own mistakes, your own debts?" Silence fell. Derek and Jessica stared at me as if seeing a stranger. Perhaps they were. Perhaps they'd never really seen me at all. Just a resource, a safety net, an ATM machine disguised as a mother. Thomas Jenkins arrived at 2:30 p.m. as planned. He'd been waiting at a coffee shop around the corner. He entered with his briefcase, professional and imposing. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, I'm Thomas Jenkins, Mrs. Chen's attorney. I understand you've received our offer." "This is extortion," Derek spat. "It's a legal settlement offer. Your alternative is foreclosure and bankruptcy, with no debt forgiveness. You'll lose the house either way, and you'll still owe the full amount. This way, you lose some equity in a property that isn't yours, but you keep your home and eliminate a substantial portion of your debt." "We need time to think," Jessica said desperately. "You have 72 hours from receipt of notice. That gives you until Saturday at 2 p.m. Jenkins placed 2 copies of the quitclaim deed on my coffee table. "These need to be signed, notarized, and returned to my office by then. If not, foreclosure proceedings begin Monday morning." "What about the grandchildren?" Jessica's voice turned venomous. "You'll never see Connor or Lily again. Is that worth it to you?" I'd known this was coming. Helen had briefed me on exactly what to say. "Jessica, if you use your children as weapons against me, I will petition the court for grandparent visitation rights. Given the documented evidence of your financial manipulation and emotional abuse toward me, and given that I've been a consistent presence in their lives, I will likely win. The court will also take into consideration that you're denying access as retaliation for not getting money. That won't look good to a judge." Her face went white. "You'd take me to court over my own children?" "You'd take me to court over my own house," I said quietly. "You started this, Jessica. You turned our relationship into a legal and financial transaction. I'm simply playing by the rules you established. Derek grabbed Jessica's arm. Come on, we need to talk to our lawyer. You should, Jenkins said. Any competent attorney will tell you this is the best deal you're going to get. Mrs. Chen is being remarkably generous given the circumstances. They left without another word. Through the window, I watched them sit in their car. Jessica was sobbing. Derek was shouting, pounding the steering wheel. The argument lasted 10 minutes before they finally drove away. I collapsed into my chair, adrenaline draining away, leaving me exhausted. You did well, Dorothy said softly. You stayed strong. I confronted my daughter. I threatened to foreclose on her house. What kind of mother does that? The kind who refuses to be a victim, Rita said firmly. She made her choices. Now she lives with the consequences. Will they sign? I asked Jenkins. Yes, he said with certainty. They have no other option. In 72 hours, this will be over. Friday evening, 36 hours before the deadline, Thomas Jenkins called me. They want to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. The offer stands as written. They're asking for $200,000 in debt forgiveness instead of $150,000. They claim they need the extra cushion for living expenses while they rebuild. I almost laughed. Even now, facing complete loss, they were trying to extract more from me. No, the offer stands. They have until tomorrow at 2 p.m. Saturday morning arrived cold and gray. I dressed carefully again. Black slacks, a burgundy sweater, my mother's pearl earrings. I wanted to look dignified for what I knew would be the final confrontation. At 1:30 p.m., Jessica's car pulled into my driveway. She and Derek emerged, looking haggard. Derek carried a manila envelope. Jessica's eyes were hidden behind sunglasses, but I could see tear tracks on her cheeks. Thomas Jenkins was already at my house, as were Dorothy, Rita, and Helen. A notary public sat ready at my dining room table. Everything was prepared. Mrs. Morrison, Mr. Morrison, Jenkins greeted them formally. Do you have the signed documents? Derek wordlessly handed over the envelope. Jenkins examined the quitclaim deed carefully. Jessica's signature was there, witnessed and notarized. It looked like she'd been crying while signing it. There were small water spots on the paper. This is in order, Jenkins said. He turned to me. Mrs. Chen, do you accept these documents? I do. Jenkins pulled out the modified mortgage documents. This reduces your debt to $250,000 with a fixed interest rate of 4.5% over 30 years. Your monthly payment will be $1,267. Can you afford that? Yes, Derek said quietly. We can. Then sign here. Jenkins indicated the lines. They signed. The notary verified their identities and witnessed the signatures. Just like that, it was done. That's it? Jessica's voice was hollow. My inheritance is just gone? You never had an inheritance, I said. You had a mother who trusted you with joint ownership for emergencies. You violated that trust. This is the consequence. I'm still your daughter. Are you? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Because my daughter died the day you walked into my kitchen and told me I had 3 days to pack my things. The woman standing here is a stranger who shares her face. Mom, please. I forgave $150,000 of your debt. That's more than enough generosity for someone who tried to render me homeless. You and Derek can keep your house, keep your children in their schools, rebuild your life. But you'll do it without me. Jessica removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, defeated. I'm sorry. I really am. I was wrong. I let fear and desperation turn me into someone I'm not. For a moment, just a moment, I felt the old maternal instinct to comfort her, to say everything would be okay. But then I remembered Derek's threats, the attempted manipulation, the cold calculation in her eyes when she thought she'd won. If you'd come to me a year ago and said, Mom, I'm in trouble. I need help. I would have helped you. I would have co-signed a loan, let you live here rent-free, done anything I could. But you didn't want help. You wanted to take from me without asking, to force me into a corner where I had no choice. That's not desperation. That's cruelty. So that's it? We're just done? I don't know, Jessica. That's up to you. If you want a relationship with me someday, it will have to be one based on respect, honesty, and boundaries. Not obligation or guilt or financial leverage. Can you do that? She said nothing. Derek put his hand on her shoulder, and they turned to leave. At the door, Jessica paused. What about Connor and Lily? Will you really keep them from me in court? That depends on you. If you poison them against me, tell them lies about why we don't see each other, use them as weapons, then yes, I'll fight for visitation rights. But if you're honest with them in age-appropriate ways, and if you allow me to maintain a relationship with them, then we can handle this like adults. They love you, Jessica said softly. They ask about you all the time. Then let them see me. Not for my sake, for theirs. They shouldn't lose their grandmother because their parents made bad financial decisions. Jessica nodded slowly. I'll think about it. They left. Thomas Jenkins began gathering the documents. Congratulations, Mrs. Chen. Your house is yours alone now. The deed will be updated within 2 weeks. After everyone had gone, I sat in my quiet living room. I'd won. My house was mine. My financial security was intact. I'd stood up to bullies and manipulators and come out victorious. So why did I feel so hollow? Because winning against your own child doesn't feel like winning. It feels like loss, but it was necessary loss, like amputating a gangrenous limb to save the body. Jessica and Derek had shown me who they were. I'd finally believed them. 2 weeks later, the updated deed arrived. Only my name appeared on it. Margaret Louise Chen, sole owner. I framed it and hung it in my hallway, a reminder that I was stronger than I'd known, that I could stand up for myself even at 75, even against my own daughter. And if that made me hard, cold, unmaternal, so be it. I'd rather be those things than be a victim in my own home. 6 months passed. Spring turned to summer, and my garden bloomed more beautifully than ever. I'd joined a gardening club, started taking watercolor classes at the community center, even volunteered at the library twice a week reading to children. My days were full, purposeful, peaceful. Dorothy and I had coffee every Tuesday morning. Rita, Helen, and I played cards every Thursday night. I'd reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during the years I was consumed with worrying about Jessica. Life was good, better than it had been in years. You look younger, my doctor said at my 6-month checkup. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. What I was doing was living for myself for the first time in decades. No more anxiety about Jessica's problems, no more walking on eggshells trying to maintain peace, no more sacrificing my own well-being for a daughter who never appreciated it. I'd remodeled my guest bedroom into an art studio. I'd replaced the worn carpet with hardwood floors. I'd painted the kitchen a cheerful yellow. This house, my house, was becoming exactly what I wanted it to be. In July, I received an unexpected visitor. Connor, my grandson, now 9 years old, stood on my porch with his other grandmother, Derek's mother, Patricia, whom I'd met a few times over the years. Nana! Connor threw himself into my arms. I held him tight, tears streaming down my face. I hope you don't mind, Patricia said. Jessica is, well, she's having a hard time. But Connor kept asking about you. I thought it was cruel to keep him away. Derek agreed, though Jessica doesn't know I brought him. We spent the afternoon together. Connor told me about school, about his baseball team, about the new puppy they'd gotten. He was careful not to mention his parents' troubles, but Patricia filled me in quietly while Connor played in my garden. They're struggling, she said. Derek took a job as a sales manager. It pays okay, but it's not what he's used to. Jessica had to go back to work as a dental receptionist. They're making their mortgage payments barely, but there's no money for extras. No vacations, no private schools, no luxury purchases. It's killing Jessica's pride. And how are the children handling it? Better than the adults, honestly. Kids are resilient, but Jessica's become bitter. She blames you for everything, says if you'd just helped them, they wouldn't be in this position. So she's learned nothing. Patricia sighed. I tried talking to her, told her she brought this on herself, that you had every right to protect yourself. She doesn't want to hear it. She's angry at the world. What about Derek? He's changed. Humbled, I think. He works hard, comes home tired. He told me once that losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to him because it showed him what really matters. But he and Jessica fight constantly. She resents that he's accepted their new reality while she's still trying to figure out how to get back to the lifestyle they had. I felt a pang of sadness, not for Jessica, but for those children growing up in a house full of resentment and blame. Can I see Connor again? I asked. Absolutely. I'll bring him every other Saturday if you'd like. Derek approves, and honestly, Jessica is too exhausted from work to fight about it. She mostly just drinks wine and watches reality shows now. So Connor became a regular visitor. Lily came once, shy and uncertain, but she warmed up after I showed her my watercolors and let her paint with me. Slowly, carefully, I rebuilt a relationship with my grandchildren, even though their mother refused to speak to me. Through Patricia, I heard about Jessica and Derek's continued struggles. Their car broke down. They couldn't afford repairs and had to buy a used vehicle. Their roof leaked during a rainstorm. The insurance didn't cover all the damage. Derek's mother loaned them money for that. Money they couldn't pay back. Jessica had to ask Vanessa Park for a loan just to cover Connor's school fees. Vanessa apparently gave it to her, but their friendship cooled significantly afterward. Jessica had become what she'd feared most, a charity case, someone people helped out of pity rather than friendship. In August, I ran into Jessica at the grocery store. It was the first time I'd seen her since that day at my house. She looked exhausted, older than her 43 years. Her cart was full of generic brands and discount items. She saw me, froze, then quickly turned down another aisle. I let her go. There was nothing to say. My life had blossomed while hers had withered, and though I took no pleasure in her suffering, I felt no guilt either. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. We were both living with the consequences. That night, I stood in my backyard watching the sunset paint my roses gold and pink. My house stood solid behind me, mine completely, mine forever. No threats, no manipulation, no fear. I'd lost my daughter, but I'd found myself. And in the end, that was the better bargain. I was 75 years old, and for the first time in my life, I was truly free.